This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelley Bydlon.
Hey, it is Long Shots Golf Betting Podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. I am Matt Brown. That is Wes Reynolds. That is Kelley Bydlon, and we are 1 week away from the Masters. But before that, we will finish this Texas swing, see if we can't get a last-minute entrant over there in Augusta. And guys coming off of one of the feel-good stories in quite a while in golf as Gary Woodland gets his first win in 2.5 years. Obviously, if you are a golf fan, you know what Gary Woodland has been through all of this, but really, really amazing stuff there with Gary Woodland. As always, if you're not already a subscriber, if you're just finding us over on the YouTube channel, it takes 2 seconds. Go down, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys doing that. And over on the audio side, subscribe, rate, and review. So, Wes, heading into Sunday, looked like there might be a sweat. Certainly with Nicolai Højgaard right there and the way that he had been playing, maybe we were going to have two guys fighting it down to the bitter end. That was not the case after all. And Gary Woodland coast to a victory. And again, just a really great feel-good story. You could see the emotion from Gary Woodland, the outpouring of our little group that we have in the sports betting community that also does golf betting and whatever was obviously very big. And then just in normal golf media in and of itself was just all beside itself here for Gary Woodland. One of the great stories here of the last few years for us.
Yeah, and congratulations to you, Matt. Now 3 in a row for the crew as Gary Woodland gets aboard. I had Nicolai Højgaard, which made it very difficult to root against Gary Woodland, obviously. But, wanted to win there. But nevertheless, Gary Woodland was the deserved winner last week. He led the field in putting, second in greens and regulation. You mentioned, obviously, the trials and tribulations he's gone through. 2.5 years ago, he was having brain surgery. And he did an interview before the Players' Championship talking about his post-traumatic stress disorder, that, dealing with this and recovering, and the fact that he had not won since that 2019 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. So it had been almost 7 years since he won an event. So Gary Woodland, the winner by 5 shots. Eventually it was 5 shots. It was 1 shot separating to start the Sunday final round. Then Nicolai made bogey on the first hole, and you knew it was going to be swimming upstream for him. And Woodland, just all control of his game, ran away from the field. Nicolai finishes runner-up. Minwoo Lee finishes T3 with Johnny Kiefer. Sam Stevens 5th, and then Jake Knapp, who had a very nice round on Sunday, 8 under par. We were all aboard him as well. Ties with Jason Day, Chris Godrup, and Sudarshan, I should say. That's how you pronounce it. Yellow Miraju ends up. So I end up with 3 in the top 10. Matt gets Gary Woodland. Kelley was on Minwoo. So had him covered and we're able to get one home. And now completing that Texas 2-step for the Valero in San Antonio this week.
Kelley, as we look at this leaderboard, not to sit here and just, do too many victory laps for all of us here on the pod, but I mean, we said we kept the model fairly simple last week. We knew the type of player that we were going to be targeting, and just look, it's bomber after bomber after bomber after bomber at the top of the tournament played out like we thought. And, sometimes overthinking it, I think, is a bad thing. I know there was some sentiment out there in the community of saying, like, this is not just a bomber's course. You guys got to, quit thinking so simplistically. But I mean, just all we have to do, look at the leaderboard and then tell me what type of golfer has success at this golf course. I actually thought it was a cool tournament. I like that course. I like the way that it played. I like the skill set that was involved there, but obviously distance, a huge, huge, huge factor, as it shows right there at the top of this leaderboard. And, I think we were all over this one. I think I think we can all walk away feeling really good about this one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, I think the thing to carry forward, and one of the notes that I made before, during, after is just, man, you're getting ready for the Masters. You're coming out of the Florida swing. Like we talked about it last week. Like, this is a tournament where all 3 of us had found success in the past. And yeah, you kind of isolate, it's different where we talk about some of these other tournaments. And like, Matt, you like to say this a lot, and I think it's well said, of just like, okay, but how many guys, there might be this many guys in the field. How many guys can actually go win this thing? And usually when we say that, we're talking about the high-end, well-rounded golfers, right, that are just the best of the best in the field. And this tournament, I think offers a very unique betting opportunity because you can say that same thing, but you're not necessarily talking about just the best quality golfers. You're just talking about the dudes who can hit it the furthest. And then you get to kind of cut out guys from there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. This was another great Houston Open. You're going to hear us all season long talk about how hard tournaments are to handicap and how hard some of these golf courses are to figure out. I think I'm pretty confident in saying this is one of, if not the easiest to kind of bet into every single year, with just us kind of knowing what that player profile needs to look like these days.
Yeah, it'll be something for sure that when we swing back around next year, don't do too much tweaking of the model. Don't get too crazy. Yeah. Look at what we've done the past 2 years and kind of just carry that over again, because it certainly has done us well here over the last couple of years. But as Wes mentioned, we got the second of the Texas tournaments this week. We are at the Valero. It is the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio Oaks course over there at TPC San Antonio. And it's a pretty cool course. I don't know. I kind of like these Texas courses. I kind of like this little mini Texas swing that we get over there. I kind of like both of these that they play on. And as we say, if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, you can go in and you can take a look at every single one of the articles that we have over there. And of course, you can also go in and see Wes's big full preview of this. But Wes, for the people that are listening here and watching over on YouTube, what are we getting out of TPC San Antonio?
Yeah, the Oaks course at TPC San Antonio. There's another one, a Canyons course designed by Pete Dye. This one designed by Greg Norman, Sergio Garcia on the consult. And it's been here since 2010. Par 72, 74, 38, played at a little bit of elevation. So there are some different ups and downs in terms of the elevation on this course. Oak tree, brush line, rye, and fescue fairways on the tighter side, about fourth narrowest. So I don't want to say it's the complete opposite of the Houston Open, but it is different. This is not as cut and dry as, bombers, guys that gain off the tee. Not necessarily the case here. Bigger greens, about 6,400 square feet average. Bermuda overseeded with POA. That's pretty much the theme that we've seen for most of the last couple months on the tour. 12 and a half on the stem. It is heavily bunkered around the green, so some bunker play as we get to the stats might be a little bit more important than normal. One thing that they have done over recent years that they've changed, they've grown this rough out to about 3 inches. They want to make it a little bit more penal. And you saw that the winning score last year was only 9 under par. Brian Harmon, by the way, the defending champion of this event, because not only they wanted to make it more penal, but it can get windy this time of year in Texas, where you almost get like multiple seasons in one day or a couple days span here. So TPC San Antonio, despite the fact that it only has a couple water hazards on the layout, was one of the more difficult courses last year when 9 under was your winner, and second place, I believe, was 6 under. So closing holes, exciting finish, risk reward, par 3 16, donut shaped green, bunker in the middle of the putting surface, drivable par 4 17th, and then a par 5 18th angle green, and then water stream protecting the front. So correlated courses might be like PGA National, a little bit of Innisbrook, a little bit of Colonial there in Texas, Riviera, TPC Scottsdale, Bay Hill were kind of some correlations where you've had guys that have succeeded on those courses also succeed here over the years at TPC San Antonio. But you get some extremes here. This is a little bit less cut and dry to handicap because you've seen 20 under as recently as 2 years ago, by the way. Akshay won at 20 under in a playoff over Denny McCarthy, and then Brian Harmon at 9 under. I would probably say, just being conservative, you're going to get in the middle of those two extremes. Maybe 13 or 14 under is the winner here. But that rough being grown out, I do think makes this a little bit more difficult.
Kelley, obviously wind plays a lot of factor on this course, designed specifically for to kind of mitigate distance a little bit. There's a ton of wind on this course at a decent amount of the time, but the downhill holes play into the wind, whereas the uphill holes play typically with the wind at your back. So you get it kind of, that doesn't really favor bombers or anything like we have out there right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the wind-o-meter that Kelley has pulled up right there. But if for the people that are just listening, Kelley, what do we got?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get a little rain on Thursday, it looks like. Winds not too bad on Thursday. Gusts like up to the 15-mile-an-hour range. Yeah, that could affect things, but nothing too crazy and kind of what we expect for this course this time of year. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, though, it might be an adventure all through the weekend with the winds. So, look, we talk about it all the time. This can change, especially out there in San Antonio. You're going to get some of the prevailing winds as well as some of the gusts. I know you're talking about with some of the holes, Matt. I think that just plays into what you get with prevailing winds, pretty much throughout every round. So some of the gusts are something to keep an eye out for. I didn't necessarily target more, so guys that have played better in wind, but I happened to land on one or two, so I'm not gonna hate that idea. But yeah, I think Thursday, it's not really something as of right now, as of us recording this Tuesday, little afternoon Pacific time here. Look, we always say check back in on it. I think Thursday, it doesn't look like there's much to kind of plan around, but yeah, you're going to be dealing with this once we get into Friday and the weekend.
And certainly this is, guys, if you are betting this on a round-to-round basis, round-to-round head-to-heads, round-to-round over-unders on scoring and things like that or whatever, this is something you're going to want to check right up until you get going out there, because there could be weather advantages, there could be wind advantage, there could be head-to-head advantages and things like that, or players that you feel play better in the wind over players that necessarily don't. So stuff that we will all be monitoring over the 4 days as we get going here. Really, the only other thing that stood out to me about this course is despite the fact that the rough hasn't been all that penal, Wes, like you mentioned, I do believe that it'll be a little bit worse this year. It's still pretty easy to make bogey and double bogey out there on this course. Like, there are a lot of bogeys that are to be had, and one of the highest double bogey rates on tour as well as is TPC San Antonio. And so one of the things that we will be monitoring there as well. Hopefully, I imagine we will have some bogey avoidance in our models with all of that. But as we look at the odds board, Kelley Bydlon, it has changed dramatically over the last 48 hours as we have had a slew of withdrawals. Gary Woodland, Collin Morikawa, we have gotten Matty Schmid, we have gotten Nicolai Højgaard. We've got a whole bunch of guys who have withdrawn from this for various reasons. Obviously, punching the ticket to the Masters was the ultimate goal for some of these dudes. And so once that got done, they pulled out. I guess the big one here is we are on Tuesday. Collin Morikawa pulls out, Wes, after we have not seen him since his last withdrawal. Now, this could just be precautionary. I don't know. For me, and I know I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here and talk about next week already, but I can't imagine myself investing a ton of money in Collin Morikawa, considering he didn't at least want to go get some sort of tune-up here in this, even if it was play a round and then withdraw, play 2 rounds and then withdraw. But he's the kind of the big one here for me, because it was not necessarily, I either already made it or definitely didn't make it in Pearson Cootie's case, where he wasn't going to be able to make the Masters unless he won the tournament. And so Morikawa is somebody that I know people probably had futures on. You can bet the Masters way in advance. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people holding Morikawa tickets right now that are not very happy about it.
No, certainly not. And this was a guy that I think people were kind of waiting to see, okay, even if he doesn't win or contend, is he going to play this week? Mm-hmm. And they would have certainly had more confidence, I think, betting him for next week, because it's like, well, he felt good enough to play. And he maybe made the cut and made it through 4 rounds. So the back shouldn't be much of an issue. And we have seen a little bit of a drift. I'm just looking. I don't have all the books up in front of me, but I do have some of them. And I'm seeing Collin Morikawa now as high as 33-1. I think that's at Bet Rivers, by the way. But market average, let's call it 30-1 right now. So that would make him like the 11th or 12th choice on the board. The usual suspects at the top: Scotty, Rory, Bryson, John Rahm, Ludwig, Xander, Tommy Fleetwood. And then you have Cameron Young ahead of him. You have Matt Fitzpatrick ahead of him. You have Justin Rose ahead of him. You have Patrick Reed in a lot of markets ahead of him. So now he's probably going to be in like the mid-30s. And it's like, well, I didn't think I was going to be getting that. You thought you were maybe going to be getting 20-1 or even slightly less on this guy. So it is a little bit speculative. Do you take the chance to say, okay, this number is just too high, or do you leave him alone? So that's a very interesting decision for players for next week.
Kelley, you've got up on the screen right now, at least the odds over at DraftKings. And so, yeah, you can see out there where some of these have gone here for the Masters. As far as this week, what that does is make Tommy Fleetwood your favorite as low as 13-1 out there in the market, as high as 16. It looks like, at least at the big national books. Of course, there are other books that have varying numbers, but if we're talking kind of sticking to the DraftKings, FanDuels, MGM, Caesars, Bet365s of the world, that's kind of where we're sitting. Ludwig coming in behind him, Robert McIntyre, Russell Henley, Jordan Spieth, Siwoo Kim, Hideki Matsuyama, Mav McNeely, Ricky Fowler, who, by the way, has not yet qualified for the Masters, Sepp Straka, Michael Chorbjornsson, Keith Mitchell, on and on and on. So with a bunch of the big withdrawals, Kelley, not the most star-studded field here in this one. And you kind of look at maybe Ludwig wants to get back on the horse after collapsing. Maybe Tommy just wants a little bit maybe Tommy just wants some reps, and that's why he's playing in this one. And past that, we're kind of getting into that second tier of guys.
Yeah, we are. And I don't know how you guys felt, but this was just felt like everybody at the top of the board felt a little too short for where they kind of belong when I first pulled this up. And that was when Morikawa was in it. We were still seeing him right around 20. So kind of right sandwiched in between all these guys too. I'll start real quick. Is Fleetwood, have you guys seen Fleetwood the favorite everywhere? I guess, I think I have, but beyond Tommy Fleetwood, it is.
He's kind of like the co-favorite with Ludwig at a couple.
Okay. Yeah. So he's the
definitely
favorite
Fleetwood
at DraftKings and at FanDuel, and then he is the same number as Ludwig at 365, and then he is actually shorter than Fleetwood at MGM and Caesars.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. So that answers that. Main reason I bring this up is if you are betting anybody near the top of the board, shop around, because I have seen. I don't even remember. We've actually seen some pretty crazy odds boards this year, but there has not been a consistent order of these guys from book to book, at all. So really shop around this week if you are betting some of these guys, and maybe I'm tipping my hand a little bit. I did bet mainly at the top of the board this week. So I was shocked at how different numbers that you were seeing. And yeah, man, this is, no Morikawa. I think that cleans this up a little bit more. He was gonna be tough. But once I saw him in the 20s, I was like, man, do I have to consider it? We've talked about this a lot with all these back injuries and withdrawals this year. How do you approach these guys heading into the tournament? And I was kind of thinking, like you guys just said, if he was going to be playing, he's feeling good enough to at least go out there and play. If that number had drifted much more, I think I would have been biting on Morikawa. So luckily this isn't a few weeks ago. You get out now and not before you hit, play one hole, and then withdraw. But yeah, man, that's, we've got a tournament this week. I think for some of these guys at the top, Ludwig's been great. Tommy Fleetwood's got some things to clean up. I don't think he's in his best form right now. I think this is truly just kind of get in form. Bobby Mack, right? He's awesome. Love Bobby Mack. The putter's awesome. He's got things he can clean up too. All these guys do. So I really do think this is just a prep week for a lot of these guys before Masters.
Speaking of the Masters, guys, the Masters is almost here. And if you think you know the field better than the average bettor, you can go ahead and prove it. The VSiN High Stakes Masters Challenge is over on Splash Sports. It's a $500 entry, 100,000 guaranteed fantasy tiers contest built specifically for golf bettors. So here's how it works. You draft 6 golfers, one from each tier in the field, and your top 5 scores are the ones that are going to count. The lowest combined scores across all 4 rounds wins. Your worst golfer gets dropped automatically, but missed cuts carry an 8-stroke penalty. So you got a roster, you got to think about your roster construction with all of that. So not luck at all here. This is about golf knowledge. Best handicapper is very likely to win this thing. It closes April the 9th at 8 a.m. So don't wait around on this. Head to splashsports.com/VSiN. So splashsports.com/VSIN. Use the promo code VSiN, VSIN, for a 50% deposit match up to $100, a free $20 quick picks entry, and a 100% quick picks boost. So again, that is splashsports.com/VSiN, promo code VSIN over there on that one. I might have to drive to the border.
Yeah, totally.
Go get in on that one.
Matt, let me just
Nevada,
piggyback.
What's that, Kelley?
Let me just jump on that real quick, man. That is, yeah, you're right. We can't use Splash in Nevada anymore, which sucks. But it's awesome to see Splash back with us. We did a college basketball Survivor with them. I have used that site for pools like this for I don't even know how many years. They do an awesome job with it. Really, really cool contest. It was awesome to see that we got that sent to us just about an hour before we started recording. So we're very, very much encourage everybody to get involved that can.
Yeah, got to make the drive to the board. I'll come swing by and pick you up, buddy. We'll just head on. Yeah, we'll head on down there and buy some lottery tickets while we're down there. Like that's
lottery.
That's where you go. You cross the border, and then as soon as you cross the border, it's like there's just a little hut right there that sells lottery tickets.
I still haven't been to it.
It basically exists to sell lottery tickets.
It's a magical idea to me. I've seen pictures, I've seen videos. It's great, but I still haven't been. It's something I got to do.
Yeah, you got to tick that off of your Vegas kind of like, okay, I'm a real Vegas guy now. I've made the trip to the border just to buy lottery tickets. Like that's how you become like a real Vegas person with all that. So each and every week, again, as a reminder, we are not coders, but we do go in, we make models. We go and lean on the skeletons that are out there from our friends Rick Rungood, BetSperts, Data Golf, et cetera, et cetera. And that being said, we put in the stats that matter. We weight them accordingly to how much we want them to play into the results that get spit out. And then we'll come in and let you guys know how that all turned out for us. So Wes, as we get going here for the Valero, what did you hone in on with your models this week?
Yeah, Matt, this is not like the complete opposite, I wouldn't say, of Houston, but it is a little bit in the fact that I don't think it's all approach here, but I think that that's where you start. Certainly. 6 of the last 8 Valero Texas Opens, the eventual winner of the event was either first or second in approach during that particular winning week. So I think that that's a good place to start here. In terms of off the tee, I went with good drives. I didn't want to necessarily go with distance, and I didn't want to necessarily go with accuracy, even though the accuracy of the last 5 years, just a little bit over 50%. And that's a lot of it with the winds and the fairways being about 27.5 yards wide on average, thicker rough than normal. So I thought good drives was maybe a way to start out. And of course, good drives measure whether the player hits the fairway either off the tee or misses the fairway, but still hits the green or fringe in regulation. So good drives is not just driving. It takes a little bit of approach into that. Ball striking, because I didn't want to go necessarily distance or all approach. So I think splitting the difference, this is more of a ball striking event instead of like a distance and hit it long and hit it as hard as you can off the tee. That's what I think is going to matter here. And ball striking, the way that it's calculated by the PGA Tour stats, total driving, which of course is distance plus accuracy. So that's total driving on one side plus greens and regulation. And that is your ball striking. And I went heavy off that list this week when we get to our plays. Scrambling, I felt hitting the greens are not necessarily a gimme here. It's about 56% because you have some runoff collection areas. Players are going to have to scramble a little bit for pars here. So I went with some scrambling. I did use a little bunker play this week. I did use a little sand saves because there's only 64 on the course, but this course is going to be windy, judging by the weather forecast a little bit, where you get 20, 25, 30 mile an hour gusts here at some point. And these are also very deep bunkers. So bunker play going to be a little bit more of a premium than I think it normally would be on your average given week. Putting, 7 of the last 15 winners here finished inside the top 10 for strokes gained putting. It's not quite a putting contest like it can turn into at Houston, because if guys are all hitting it long, then putting is going to make the difference. And we certainly saw that with Gary Woodland being number one, I think gaining like 8.4 strokes over 4 rounds. So I think it's worth examining a little bit, but I don't think I weighed it this much this week as I certainly did last week. Bogey avoidance, Matt, you mentioned it earlier. Greens are contoured. You have some slopes here, which is going to affect your approach shots. You could get them a good shot in the runoff collection area. So you're going to have to get up and down and make that par to avoid those bogeys. So this can be tricky here. So bogey avoidance percentage. And then I did par 5s. The 4 par 5s are about 588. 2 of them are over 600 yards. So some of them will, at times, depending on the wind, might be 3-shot holes instead of 2-shot holes. So you could use par 5, strokes gained or birdie or better on par 5. Either way you slice it. And that's pretty much what I did here this week.
Kelley, when I'm throwing stuff together, and I think you and I have talked about this, and I think you've maybe, I think you still include it in yours maybe a little bit more than I do. I've kind of almost gotten away from the proximity buckets altogether. I think it might be a little noisy because you don't really know like how many shots this is taking into account. It's like some guys are longer than others. Some guys are using wedges all the time. Some guys are not. So I don't know. So I've kind of like gotten away from the proximity bucket thing and just really have started leaning on opportunities gained, because then it's like, okay, if you're short, we're hoping you're putting it inside 15 feet as it is anyway. I mean, that would be awesome if you're putting it inside 15 feet. And then if you're doing it from further away, okay, cool. That's even better. Right. And so like, I know there's going to be a decent amount of wedges in here into this one, but I skipped the proximity thing. And I've just, like I said, I've started to really just lean on opportunities gain. How many times are these guys putting it to 15 feet or better? And how many times are they getting really good looks at scoring?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think that's a good way to go about it. I still use them lightly. I think that's and look, it does include this week. I used some of those wedge ranges. I've dialed back on it for sure. Just a point of conversation that you brought up. I've dialed back on it. I think this week though, and like where we have super long courses where we know really long iron play is going to come into play for almost everybody, those are the courses I probably still tend to use them more on or use them period on. So just personally, that's how I do it. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I think opportunities.
Yeah, it's stuff. Yeah, I'll do the 200 plus with it, but that's about it, right? Because
I was going to say that actually,
because if it's 200 plus, it's like 200 plus for everybody, and so like they're like all like that kind of is universal across the deal. But it's like, once we get into wedges, like the ranges are so different. So yeah, I don't know. It's to me anyway, it's gotten a little bit noisy, but yeah, it's 200 plus is when I'll use kind of the
I'm glad you brought that up, Matt, because I think it's still useful on like more bombers courses, like we saw last week at Memorial Park. Because one thing I use is average proximity 200 plus yards, and you did have a few guys last week on that leaderboard. Sudashan obviously was up there on the leaderboard. He's number one on the tour in the category. Knapp made that nice rally on Sunday. Chorbornson, Nikolai Højgaard. Like these were guys that were all in the top 10 to 15 in that category. So I think it was kind of a useful stat. Like you won't get everybody down the board like seemingly we did with ball speed last week, by the way. That is something maybe on these bomber courses I'm going to use more, because guess who was number one in ball speed coming into last week? One Gary Woodland, and Nikolai Højgaard was number 4. Minwoo Lee was number 10. That was your final pairing, by the way, on Sunday. So that's something you might want to look at. And you're seeing it on the broadcast too, being measured a little bit more in terms of ball speed, and that's the point of impact off the tee. So traditionally, you're going to see the bombers on that list. So, you get new stats all the time, and you do a little bit of experimenting. Like I know distance from the edge of the fairway we used a couple times last year. So don't be afraid to maybe do a little bit of experimenting with some of this stuff, because it's constantly changing as you get results. Like I have to change certain things and use different things that maybe worked for me 2 years ago, but don't necessarily work for me today.
Wes, did you just say that old Sudarshan, Yellow Miraju, who I think I've got his name down now, is number 1 on the PGA Tour this season in 200 plus yard approach shots?
I will verify that he was number 1 in last week's field. Because when I do these things, when I write the article for vsin.com, I'm putting those guys that are just in the field necessarily. So there are some times when you have guys that, they might be 3rd or 4th overall, but they were number 1 in
the other guys aren't playing. Yeah,
in last week's field. So Sudarshan, I believe, because I believe I'm just checking this, by the way, to get it right. Yeah, Hideki, I believe, is number 1 on approaches from greater than 200 yards. He was not in last week's field. He has a 40 feet 2-inch proximity. Sudarshan is 41.6. So Sudarshan is actually number 2 on the tour, but he was number 1 in last week's field.
Yeah, this guy is coming on strong. Jeez,
yep.
Like, jeez.
The secret's out.
We've talked about the results the past couple of weeks, but man, that's maybe the most impressive thing I've heard about him so far. That is that's where we talk about the elite players separating themselves so often, right? Is those long iron abilities, man. Sorry, Matt, derailed things there.
No. And no, I think this is all good. Like, I think this is all good conversation.
Yeah.
And Wes, you brought up like the different stats too, which is why, I give the shout out to the 3 different places. Like, I run models at 3 different places because there's different stats on all 3 places. Like BetSperts has different stuff in their model than Rick has, than Data Golf has, than whatever. And so it's kind of like, I've got to do like a hodgepodge of all of that to kind of get to the point of where I'm at.
I'm going to derail one more time then real quick for another quick stat conversation, okay? Why because I'm sure there's some people out there, if they're running some of their own models at some of these sites, they're wondering, they're thinking the same thing. And honestly, Matt's out there golfing all the time, and he's in the simulators. He can answer this question probably best. What is, if all I care about at the end of the day is driving distance, why do I need to focus on club head speed or ball speed as much?
Well, okay. So club head speed is different, right? Club head speed, you really care more about that when it comes to like the rough and hitting it out of the rough and everything, because like the faster you swing the club, the easier it is for you to get it out of the rough and all the different things like that, right? Interestingly enough, is if you can look at, so ball speed is actually going to end up being a little bit more predictive, I think, over the long term than just like driving distance in general, because the end of the day, like driving distance can be a little wonky. Like, did you have certain course tailwinds, downhills, different things, all the stuff like that. Like, there just aren't many dudes that have 190, 191 ball speed like Gary Woodland had this past week, right? Like Gary Woodland's going to be longer at every course than everybody is or whatever, because it's like not really course dependent at all. He has just optimized his swing he doesn't even look like he's swinging. That's why I can't believe about Gary Woodland. It's like, he has optimized his driver swing like more unbelievable. Like, this guy's getting 191, 192 ball speed. It doesn't even look like he's swinging all that hard. Like, I've never seen anything like it. So anyway, Kelley, just long story short, courses can be dependent on just driving distance just in general, right? But like ball head, like ball speed is going to be the same no matter where you go, which is always going to make the ball go long.
And you have some courses where the fairways. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelley, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, you're just removing all outside factors, conditions, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, whether it's different courses, it's different winds, different time of day that people are playing in. This is literally just imagine putting them in a dome and arena and how they're going to hit the ball every time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think ball speed will also matter more like when you get on soft courses where there's been a lot of rain. Like distance, you can get a little bit, I think Matt used the right term, wonky, because you'll get firm and fast fairways. It's like, well, it hadn't rained here in 6 months. Right. So you're going to get a lot of roll here in some of the fairways, even though you do see some carryover. Like you see a lot of the same guys at the top from distance to ball speed. But I do think ball speed, maybe long term, gives you more of the indicator of guys that are hitting it hard and hitting it long.
All right, so we threw our stuff into the models. Things got spit out, and we decided to throw some bets into our account. Wes Reynolds, when it was all said and done, where did you go with your betting card this week?
Yeah, a couple shorter guys that I did leave off this week because of price. I did consider Jordan Spieth because the approaches are starting to spike. Maybe he's a sneaky mid-range guy for the Masters next week, despite, depends on how he plays this week, but I couldn't get there at 19-1 with Jordan Spieth. He just hasn't had the win equity or the consistency, although the approach numbers are certainly spiking for the guy. So he was one I left off. I also left off Ricky Fowler. That may be one I add because I think maybe we're due another feel-good story, right? We had one with Gary Woodland. Well, what would be a better feel-good story also than Gary Woodland than Ricky Fowler, who hadn't won in a while, who everybody loves and still trying to get into the Masters, one of those guys trying to get in, but did not make it. But I went a little bit ball striking heavy this week where I maybe depended on stats a little bit more to be more of a tiebreaker rather than kind of using both stats and gut. And I ended up again one more time on Michael Chorbjornsson, 33-1. 3 bogeys, by the way, on the back 9 probably cost him a spot in the Masters to get last week to get into that top 50 in the OWGR.
Driver just got away from him there on Sunday, and it just like and he ended up in the worst spots too when it did get away from him, behind trees and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
He did, and he's one of those young, talented guys, and there's so many of them out there. Michael Brennan being another one. I could go on and on. They just need better course management, and that takes time when you're a talented young player. Hell, we're still doing it with Ludwig, who's an elite player in the game, just need better course management, and that takes a couple years to get, but you know that the talent is obvious. T14 last week in Houston, so he can still get in the Masters if he wins this week. One thing I did like, and because he ended up in tough spots, he was a very good scrambler. He was second in scrambling last week in Houston. I think around the green is going to be important this week, especially from a scrambling standpoint. Number one in total driving on the PGA Tour is Michael Chorbjornsson, who has been knocking on the door at the victory. He's got, I think, 4 top 4 finishes over the last calendar year. So I'm giving him another shot here that maybe he blew his chance last week. Maybe he rebounds and gets a second chance this week. So Chorbjornsson, 33-1. Another guy trying to play his way in, Rio Hisatsune, at around 40-1-ish. Fifth here at the Valero last year. 8 consecutive cuts, runner-up at Torrey, top 10 at Phoenix, top 10 at Pebble, third in GIR on the PGA Tour. So I think he's going to get a lot of birdie looks this week, but can he make them is the ultimate question. But I thought he was worth the go. And then a guy who didn't model as much, this was kind of my hunch play. Denny McCarthy, who I saw earlier this morning as high as 47-1. Finished runner-up here 2 years ago. Remember, Akshay beat him in the playoff. And also 2 top 18 finishes bookend that runner-up finish. So he's always been very good here. He's a pretty good wind player. Like when the conditions with the wind and stuff get a little bit tougher on some tougher courses like PGA National or like Muirfield Village, he tends to play better. Because McCarthy, as great of a putter as he historically is, he's not a guy that you think is going to go out and shoot like 22 to 25 under. Like he's going to win maybe some more grinder type events, which this might be this week. 12th, by the way, in Houston on a course that's absolutely not a fit for him. Absolutely too long for him off the tee. And TPC San Antonio, I think that'll be much more manageable for him. And then a home game guy, I got a much better number that I think is available in the market average, but I played Johnny Kiefer at 60-1. I think he's in the 40s now. He lives in San Antonio. That is now his adopted hometown. By the way, played his college golf at Baylor. He is a member of this course at TPC San Antonio. The reigning Korn Ferry player and rookie of the year, who won 3 times, got the promotion, the battlefield of the PGA Tour, broke that miscut string with the T3 last week at Houston, number 4th overall on the PGA Tour for ball striking. So he's plenty long, plenty accurate off the tee, plus he's gaining with the iron. So Johnny Kiefer, and then another guy played at a much worse number. You're going to see numbers out there on social media that are much higher, like if you got him on the Open, but with all the withdrawals that changed and with how well he's been playing, who's been mentioned earlier on this particular Long Shots episode. Sudarshan, Yellow Miraju, 63-1 was his high earlier today. He is probably now down in the mid to high 50s. The word's out, obviously, on this guy who's self-taught. Watching YouTube videos is how he learned to play golf. PGA Tour America's guy last year that won a couple times. 6th last week in Houston, 5th at the Players. He ranked 7th in this field for strokes gained ball striking, but also top 15 for putting. So he's showing the game early in 2026. And I mentioned I didn't get to Jordan Spieth at that price, but I got to another Jordan S. Jordan Smith at 75-1, who's a 2-time DP World Tour winner from England. T44 last week in Houston, shot all 4 rounds in the 60s, 3rd at the Valspar a couple weeks ago. He is 13th and 4th strokes gained off the tee for the last 2 events, 2nd tee to green in his last event. And he's also first in this field with Morikawa's withdrawal. The number 1 guy on the PGA Tour for strokes gained, or for ball striking rather, which is GIR plus total driving, is one Jordan Smith. So I'm going to bank on, okay, hopefully he makes a couple putts and we get there with the price. And then our triple-digit guy this week, William Mao at 110-1, who won the ISCO Championship, the alternate event, which used to be the Barbasol in Kentucky last summer. 4th in good drives, 10th in ball striking, 1st, 4th, and 5th in total driving in his last 3 tournaments.
Wow. We have I have an interesting card comparatively to you? Because I share one of yours. I'm fading some of your guys. Like, I can't do this. This is awesome. Sometimes we're like, I feel like we're too in sync with some of our picks or whatever. So this will be good. Kelley, rock and roll, buddy. What you got?
I'm a little bit the same way. I real quickly, Jordan Smith was one that I got close to, Wes. We talked about it, I think, after the foul sport. I was so damn impressed.
That's the one I am on. I am on Jordan Smith. Okay. So I am on Jordan. I'm on Jordan Smith at 75-1 also.
You guys, I might be joining you there. Okay, 3 outrights for me, as I kind of hinted at early. I am actually going pretty near the top of the board. These are all going to be price dependent. I'm sorry, guys. It's another week in a row where I bet before a major name withdrew. Russell Henley is where I started. I think, look, I like Russell Henley if you're talking 18, 19, 20-ish to 1. If you're talking 12 or 13 to 1, I'm not betting him at that number. I'd be skipping that. I got into Henley, though, the 20 to 1. Look, he is last 16 rounds, the 19th off the tee. We know what he does well. He hits it accurate off the tee. He's a quality approach player, good around the greens, and a very good putter. 6th in this field in bogey avoidance over the last 16 rounds. Recent results are there. It's top 20 finishes all season long, except for a missed cut. He was 4th here last year at this course. We didn't really mention it before. This is a course with pretty sticky history for what you've done here in the past. So going to Henley, played him in the outright market and covering that with a top 5. I cannot believe I'm going to be the guy saying that after what Wes just said. I played Jordan Spieth, and I played Jordan Spieth in the outright market. I am not thrilled about it, but man, does he history here, form, man, it checks all the boxes. I don't love the number. What I did with Spieth was I played it very lightly in the outright market. I played a pretty heavy top 20 play on Jordan Spieth is how I approached it. Look, he is top 5 rated for me in everything that I ran. The 5th on approach. The approach numbers have been good. The putter is hot, as we do expect from Spieth usually. 12th in bogey avoidance. All the good scrambling. Everything we mentioned before that you're going to need around the greens here. He's quality on. So yeah, I'm with Jordan Spieth in the tournament history. Is just silly. T12, T10, T25, and a win in his last 4 years here. So Spieth outright and top 20. For a bigger play. And then I think my first time playing this guy this year, who he's one of my favorites, just haven't found the right time, Sepp Straka. I'm going to go to him. Another guy. Hey, look, a lot of these guys kind of similar profiles, right? Accurate off the tee. You guys mentioned the rough being grown out. I think it's a little bit of concern. I want more accuracy off the tee this week. But you know what? Going back and look at it, also, like off the tee, I downweighted a lot this week. This is really more heavy approach and then kind of, around the greens, on the green stuff. I didn't really care, though. Just looking back at past winners, wasn't looking for super long guys, didn't need super accurate guys, or you are able to play out of the rough here. But again, this rough is a little bit longer this year. So ended up on some guys that are pretty straight off the tee. Straka, great year already.
So for time purposes, I'll go ahead and say I'm on Straka as well.
Okay.
Everything that you basically just said right there. I mean, his approach game is ridiculous. Tee to green game in this field is top 10. Birdie or better percentage is elite. Bogey avoidance, he's inside the top 25. So I don't think we have to worry too incredibly much about all that. And like we said, we're focusing on good drive percentage. It's not elite. It's not great, but he's like 27th in this field over the last 28 rounds, last 16 rounds, stuff like that. So last anywhere between the last 4 to 8 tournaments, he's at least inside the top 30. So I am also on Sepp.
Like it. So an outright and top 20 on Straka for me. A little bit heavier. This is just a little bit different of how I bet Spieth, right? Heavier on the outright because we've seen the win equity from Straka before. A little heavier on the outright there than what I did with Spieth, even at a shorter number. And then real quick, Matt, I got 2 more top 20s. Just to throw in here, I'm in with you, Wes, on Rio, back on him again. Look, just great ball striker. I think he sets up well for this course. Hopefully the putter can get hot. We'll be okay there. And then I'm going back to Keith Mitchell again. Top 20 on Keith Mitchell, plus 150. Great history at this course. Top 20 the last 3 years that he's played it.
So like I said, I'm on Sepp and Jordan Smith. You can listen to the commentary from both of those guys. Great stuff. For the same reason that I'm on both of them. I started at Mav McNeely. He is inside the top 7 in basically all of the models that I ran for him. And the deal with Mav, right? I mean, you're getting a good around the green game, a good tee to green game. He makes some birdies at a pretty high rate. He's weirdly even though we don't think about him as being longer or whatever, he destroys par fives, actually. I mean, this is a guy that 10th in this field over the last 28 rounds, 5th in this field over the last 16 rounds in that. And then, like I said, I've kind of focused more on opportunities gained. I want those dudes that are going to give themselves those shots. And like, he's inside the top 15 in opportunities gained as well. So with that, Mav McNeely kind of starts the card there for me. Mid-range guy is Alex Smalley, a guy that I, for whatever reason, can't seem to quit. He just models so incredibly well for me. I think his approach game has been really well of late, which has probably bumped him up as high as I've factored in approach this week. Over the last 16 rounds, he's actually 11th in this field in strokes gained approach. Tee to green, he's inside the top 15 as well. And we're talking about a number that's way out at like 70-1, and it just wasn't. He's middling in all the other stats, but he's not bad in any of them. He's just kind of middle of the field and all the other stuff that I'm looking at. And so at a 70-1, I'm okay going there with Alex Smalley. We talked about
Jordan
Smith.
What's the weakest part of his? What's the weakest part of his game? What's the weakest part of his game? Around the green, probably. I mean, he's solid off the tee. He's a great approach player. He's a good putter. Like, I don't know. I like Smalley. I'm with you, Matt. He rates out high for me way too often.
2 triple-digit guys for me this week, and they just modeled so well that it was impossible for me to pass up. Adrien Dumont de Chasson is
sick of him.
First for me. And then Zhechong Dao is also the other one for me. Both of these guys inside the top 20 for me, modeling purposes. You can find. So if you're not in a circa, I will say this. So if you're not in a circa market, Dumont he's like in the 80-85 range. He's 105 at circa, so it's a huge discrepancy. So there's at least that. But Dow you can get at 125 just about anywhere. Again, both of these dudes modeled out incredibly well for me and does just about everything that I'm looking for. I kind of want to get to what pay off the punch the tease that I had a little bit earlier. So I'm actually against both of you guys. So I'm fading Ryo Hisatsune. I am against him here. I'm going against him though. This is why I thought this was interesting with one of the other guys that you have on your outright card, Wes. So I'm going against Ryo with Yellamaraju, and I'm also going with him against Kiefer. And so I'm taking on both Kiefer and Ryo with Yellamaraju. I don't get the Kiefer love. I mean, T3 last week, but his 3 missed cuts before that, like outside of 40th, the 2 tournaments before that, T61, like back in January. I mean, I don't know. I get the whole home course advantage thing here, but one good finish is not going to get me to take him over a dude that I think has been really, really, really super consistent. I'm just worried about Rio's workload, man. Like if you go back, he's played every tournament but one since the beginning of January. I mean, like he's skipped 1 tournament at the beginning of March. And I just don't know, man. I wonder if that's going to eventually catch up to him. And like I said, I just think that Yellamaraju is what he's been doing is pretty phenomenal. So did take head-to-heads on him against both Kiefer and Ryo. Top 30 on Alex Noren, and then top 40 on Bronson Burgoon. 2 dudes that modeled out really well for me. I don't think the win equity is there for either one of those guys, but I really do like them a good bit for placement market stuff on them. Before we get out of here, everybody wants to know about one and done, what we would be doing, where we're going to go this week. I'm fine going with, I mean, I like Straka. I like honestly, any of the guys towards the top of the board. I don't know if you're going to use them at a major tournament anyway. So
yeah.
I'm kind of fine with anybody you like towards the top, because I don't know if you're going to be, other than Fleetwood, like he's the only guy that you would use in a big tournament. Like, I don't know if you're using any of these guys. Well, I guess Ludwig. Ludwig and Tommy.
I'd say Ludwig and Tommy. I think anybody else you could make a case for using here.
If you're looking, I think, for a consistent banker, maybe Keith Mitchell, because he was 12th here last year, 14th the year before, and then 17th the tournament before. Like, he's always a cut maker here. Like, he may not be a guy that has the win equity, but he's a guy that I think can make you some money in a long season one and done pool.
With the way that my one and done season is going with all these withdrawals, I need someone that nobody else is on. I might just pick someone that's like 500-1 or something, right? Because I that's the only way that I'm going to catch up with 4 withdrawals in this one and done season already. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's the most brutal contest thing I've ever heard of, honestly. Four
Guys, we
WDs
didn't
in a
give
row.
away the prize pack last week. I'm willing to give it away again this week. Go in, retweet this when you see it on the Twitter machine. Go to any of our Twitters. Go in, retweet it. Be a subscriber on YouTube. Be a subscriber over on there. We'll figure it out. We'll get this out to somebody out there. That's how I'm going to do it. So somebody's going to get something with Masters written all over it. For Kelley, for Wes, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Valero bets.